The Serpent's Descent, an ancient astronaut hypothesis. The year is 1969. Deep within the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico stand the magnificent ruins of Chichen Itza, a sprawling Mayan city that flourished between 750 and 1200 AD. It was among these towering stones that researcher Erich von Daniken experienced a profound awakening centered on the great central pyramid, El Castillo. "I was standing before this great pyramid. I admit, I understood nothing at first. I dove into every piece of literature I could find from Central American archaeologists to grasp the true meaning of it all. And then the pieces clicked. The locals were speaking of visitors from outside. Of course, in their language, they called them gods. Consider the ancient Mayan myths. Their primary deity was known variously as Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan. All those different names referred to the exact same being, always described as a winged or a flying serpent, a flying snake. It seems whatever they witnessed high up in the sky could best be interpreted through the lens of a celestial flying reptile. Across the world, Chichen Itza is regarded as a critical location. It's one of those sites where ancient stories claim the gods descended to earth to decree the fate of humankind. And this particular pyramid, El Castillo, the castle, hosts an intricate, unbelievable light show specifically during the equinoxes on March 21 and September 21. As the sun begins to rise, you see it ascend slowly, and as it moves, you watch as triangles of light and shadow appear in the stairway. This effect is ingeniously created by the pyramid's 9 platforms. These light and shadow triangles creep slowly down the steps until the sun is fully up. The message encoded here is remarkably clear. God Kukulkan visited the earth and then vanished, leaving behind a promise to return in a distant future. They meticulously built this prophecy, this information about the return of the gods, directly into their sacred temple. And this, I believe, is one of Erich's greatest contributions, not only here at Chichen Itza, but at so many other sites across the world. He zeroes in on specific details and demands attention. Look, this is important. This feature is architecturally and mathematically difficult to create. This is the detail that traditional archaeology tends to simply overlook.
The enigma of Lord Pakal. By connecting the ancient Mayas' deep astronomical knowledge with their precise architecture, Erich von Daniken found his ancient alien hypothesis gaining momentum. Seeking more undeniable proof, he turned his attention to another Mayan temple, one containing the tomb of a figure some theorize was the first ancient astronaut, Lord Pakal. David Childress. At the ancient Mayan city of Palenque, a pivotal discovery was made in the 1950s, the tomb of Lord Pakal. Inside, covering his sarcophagus, was a massive, highly decorated lid. The image carved into that lid depicts Lord Pakal engaged in truly unusual actions. Erich von Daniken. You can clearly see a man leaning forward, almost in the posture of a racing motorcyclist. He appears to have his nose covered by some kind of oxygen mask. With his upper hand, he manipulates a knob, and with his lower hand, he operates a set of controls. He's seated on a chair within a protective capsule or craft. David Childress. When Erich analyzed that lid, he didn't see a king descending into the underworld. He saw a Mayan ruler strapped into a rocket ship. He interpreted the scene as the king returning to the stars, launching back into space. It was an exciting and radical interpretation. forming a cornerstone of his book, Chariots of the Gods. When others viewed the sarcophagus lid alongside his explanation, they found themselves compelled to agree. Could von Daniken be right? Was Lord Pakal truly an extraterrestrial visitor in the distant past, one who gifted advanced knowledge to mankind?
The hieroglyphic history of Copan. In Central America stand the impressive ruins of the ancient Maya city of Copan. While its pyramids and monuments are highly significant, scholars and enthusiasts alike are particularly drawn to a 72-step structure known as the hieroglyphic stairway. This stairway was constructed in the early 700s AD with the explicit purpose of chronicling Copan's entire history. It serves as a great public monument dedicated to the glory of its successive rulers from Yaxcucmo all the way to the 13th king who commissioned it. The ancient Mayan symbols, or glyphs, are recognized as one of the world's most sophisticated writing systems. Yet for centuries, the glyphs found throughout Mesoamerica remained undecipherable. That changed in 1880 when German librarian and anthropologist Ernst Forstemann finally cracked the code. Mayan hieroglyphic writing is complex because it combines two fundamental components. First, there are logographs, which are pictures representing entire words, like Balam for jaguar. Second, there are glyphs that represent phonetic sounds. Interpretations of the hieroglyphic stairway reveal that the glyphs document not just military history, but the divine origin of the ancient Maya rulers. The glyphs focus on matters crucial to royalty. The kings took meticulous steps to demonstrate their direct connection to their ancestors and to the gods of those ancestors, thereby establishing their undeniable right to rule. For example, sculptures of rulers like Uwaksahaklahun Uba Kawil, the 13th ruler of Copan, are adorned with finely detailed regalia. But the sculptor also added a clear hieroglyphic passage intended for the literate elite, stating that this demonstrated the semi-divinity of their king and his power to intercede between humanity and the heavens. What was the true source of power and authority behind these Maya priests and kings? Do the hieroglyphs hint at an otherworldly truth regarding their origins, just as the Maya traditions suggest? Ancient astronaut theorists are convinced the answer is yes. The origin story is simple. The initial group of priests, the Cabal, were all in contact with extraterrestrials. That's the real reason they were so revered. Our ancestors mistook these technologically advanced visitors for gods because they couldn't comprehend the technical reality, the nuts and bolts behind the visits. Ultimately, it was all a monumental misunderstanding, conveniently used as a mechanism to keep the common people subservient. The Maya and the cosmos. The Yucatan Peninsula served as the heartland for one of the world's great civilizations, the Maya, for over 2,000 years. At their peak, 250 to 900 AD, the Mayan population reached an estimated 15 to 20 million people. Archaeological evidence confirms they developed a written language, employed modern mathematical methods, and erected massive multi-story celestial observatories, all during Europe's so-called Dark Ages. Sean David Morton, the Maya were a uniquely advanced civilization, possessing hyper-advanced knowledge in astronomy, astrology, trigonometry, and architecture, while their European contemporaries were, frankly, struggling in the mud. Perhaps the most astonishing Mayan achievement was their sophisticated calendar system, centered on timekeeping. To the Maya, mastering time was equivalent to wielding magic and power. They precisely tracked the movements of Venus, the phases of the moon, and eclipses. More incredibly, they tracked precession, an exceptionally long cycle. This means they understood that the day a specific star group, like the Pleiades, rises on the horizon, shifts by 1 day every 72 years. The cycle only fully completes after 26,000 years. According to their beliefs, time moved in repeating calendar cycles that could be used to predict future events. Their most significant cycle, the Mayan long count, spanned 5,125 years and famously concluded on December 21, 2012. Why did the Maya choose this specific date, and what did they fear would happen? The answer might lie in a unique astronomical phenomenon at the center of the Milky Way galaxy, a vast area where no stars exist. Sean David Morton, the Mayans not only knew the location of the galactic center, but understood it was a light-year-across black hole, which they referred to as the Great Rift. Logan Hawks. The Maya considered this Great Rift to be the birth canal of the universe, the source of all creation. On December 21, 2012, the Earth, the Sun, and this birth canal all fell into a perfect alignment, an event that occurs only once every 26,000 years. Could the conclusion of the Mayan long count calendar precisely matching this rare galactic alignment be a mere coincidence? Could such advanced knowledge of celestial cycles have truly come from ancient astronomers observing the sky with just their naked eyes? Logan Hawks. The Mayans always insisted this knowledge was not their own. It was delivered to them as a gift from their gods, beings who existed among the stars. Given that, is it possible these gods were extraterrestrials? Yes, the possibility remains open. Giorgio A. Tuscalos. The Maya maintained that this knowledge wasn't something they developed, it was a gift from the gods. And the greatest gift back then wasn't material wealth, it was knowledge. Knowledge is the true currency of the universe.
The asteroid and the dinosaur connection. Fast forward to 65 million years ago. An 8-mile-wide asteroid hurtles toward Earth at 12 miles per second, striking the Yucatan Peninsula with the force of 100 million megatons of TNT. Mainstream science holds that this single catastrophic impact irrevocably altered the global climate and topography, definitively ending the age of the dinosaurs. David Morrison. That colossal object, about 8 to 10 miles across, dug a massive hole and lofted so much black dust into the atmosphere that it shrouded the planet in darkness for months, possibly years. Sunlight was essentially shut out from the Earth's surface. Photosynthetic plants died off, followed by the plant-eating dinosaurs and then the meat-eaters. This extinction event might have unfolded over a period of 5 to 10 years, though the exact speed is still debated. But is it truly impossible that some dinosaur species survived this cataclysmic event, thriving for thousands or even millions of years afterward? Clues might be found near the impact crater, precisely in the heart of the Yucatan. Today, less than 90 miles from the crater's epicenter, lies Chichen Itza. It makes you wonder, is it a coincidence that the same region, the Yucatan, that suffered the world's most devastating extinction event is also the main habitation area for the ancient Maya? Philip Coppens. Chichen Itza is often referred to as the place where the Mayans first made contact with their gods. I find it an extraordinary coincidence that, of all the places around the Gulf of Mexico, they chose the exact location where literally something fell from the sky 65 million years ago. Furthermore, the Mayans believed this sky contact continued until relatively recent times. This suggests either a massive coincidence or something else entirely is at play, a connection that requires much closer scrutiny. Intriguingly, in the Mayan region, there are bizarre depictions of dinosaurs. There are pterosaurs, and a famous dinosaur appears on one of the paintings at Bonampak. How could the Mayans have known about dinosaurs if they've supposedly been extinct for millions of years? David Morrison. If, as mainstream science believes, Dinosaurs died off millions of years before the evolution of mankind. How can we explain the wealth of Mayan art depicting interactions between humans and dinosaurs, found in the very area where those beasts supposedly perished?
The Aztec creation and the flint knife. Beneath modern-day Mexico City lie the submerged ruins of Tenochtitlan, the ancient Aztec metropolis. The Aztecs ruled central Mexico from the 14th to the 16th century, and Tenochtitlan was their first official, highly sophisticated settlement, featuring a grid system of canals and causeways. Yet Aztec historical texts confirm their civilization did not begin there. Edwin, the Aztecs claimed their starting point was a place in the north called Chicomostac. It was described as a great cave with 7 different caverns housing 7 original tribes. The Aztecs counted themselves as one of these 7 tribes, originating from Chicomostac's 7 chambers. Although once considered purely mythological, archaeological evidence now suggests Chicomostac was real, likely located at the ancient pyramid complex of Teotihuacan. Edwin, the place of the 7 caves is believed to be located archaeologically beneath the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan, just north of the Valley of Mexico. Underneath the pyramid, a natural cave exists with 7 distinct extensions, exactly where the Aztecs claimed their original ancestors emerged. Jonathan, Mendieta recorded an astonishing Aztec legend. He described a gigantic flint knife landing on the earth. The ground shook as this enormous object struck. From it, 1,600 gods disembarked, taking responsibility for launching the Aztec civilization. Giorgio A. Tsoukalos. We have a direct description of a giant flint knife descending from the sky, from which individuals emerged. One must ask if our ancestors were actually witnesses to the landing of some type of a craft. If this is true, the Aztec story implies that at some point in human history, extraterrestrials created mankind. And whatever happened, something highly unusual was definitely taking place at Teotihuacan.
The Mysteries of Teotihuacan. Narrator. Located just 30 miles northeast of Mexico City, the Teotihuacan complex, dating back to the 1st century AD, spans nearly 8 square miles. It is the oldest and most sophisticated city in Mesoamerica, predating the Maya by at least a century. At its peak, it was a major center supporting almost 100,000 residents, the largest city in the entire Western Hemisphere before the 15th century. Edwin, the importance of Teotihuacan cannot be overstated. It is the Rome of Mesoamerica. The standards and patterns set by Teotihuacan defined all city-states that followed. Narrator. The complex is dominated by the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon, alongside the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. These stand on the Avenue of the Dead, flanked by over 200 smaller structures and pyramids. Yet, despite its monumental scale, no one knows who built this metropolis or what caused its subsequent collapse. Edwin, Teotihuacan astonishingly has virtually no hieroglyphs. While other Mesoamerican cultures used writing systems, nothing comparable exists at Teotihuacan. Consequently, we lack a clear history of what happened here, and we can find no definite evidence of its rulers. We are left with this exceptionally sophisticated site, embodying advanced engineering principles, complex craftsmanship, and art. Where did it originate? We find no smaller, earlier versions, no clear evolutionary progression. We are forced to ask, where did this knowledge come from? David Childress. We are culturally conditioned to view these awesome stoneworks and dismissively assume primitive people did that with primitive methods. But we must fundamentally rethink that assumption and acknowledge that the technology required to build these structures was far greater than anything the local inhabitants supposedly possessed. The Golden Orbs and Mars. Narrator. Teotihuacan, Mexico.
In 2003, archaeologists made a startling discovery: a previously unknown tunnel lying 45 feet beneath the temple of the feathered serpent. Exploring the debris-filled tunnel with a robotic probe, they reached a terminal side cave. The end of the tunnel was littered with yellowish, metallic-looking orbs, later identified as colored clay. Edwin Hari Childem. These orbs are unique. I have never encountered anything like them in any other archaeological context. They are clay inside, but they are coated on the outside with gold flecks, giving them the appearance of golden balls. The function of these golden balls remains unknown, but archaeologists suggest the cavern itself was a place of sacred ritual. Since the walls were also covered in gold flecks, if the cavern was lit by torchlight during a ceremony, it would have shimmered with 1,000 points of light, intensely resembling the cosmos. David Childress. These beautiful yellow orbs strongly suggest they were meant to illustrate planets. We know the Mayan calendar was heavily calibrated to the orbital parameters of the planets in our solar system, particularly the inner planets. The connection to the red planet is vividly demonstrated in the Dresden Codex. This rare surviving Mayan book describes the calendar in relation to Mars's movements across the sky. The Dresden Codex is essentially an astronomical almanac. One section specifically discusses Mars, breaking up days into 10 groups of 78 days, totaling 780 days, the exact synodic period of Mars. This is the time it takes Mars to return to the same position on the horizon from a human perspective. Scholars believe Mars played an essential role in Mayan astrology, as depicted in the Codex. Above the relevant almanac is a skyband featuring celestial symbols, and hanging from it is an intriguing dragon-like creature. That creature is now recognized as the face of Mars. Suppression and the dragon's return. Megalithic stone heads, figurines that appear to be flying craft, and statues that evoke cultures from across the world. According to ancient astronaut theorists, it was this very information that the Catholic Church sought to suppress when they attempted to destroy all traces of Mayan culture nearly 500 years ago. Why? Because when these great ancient cultures, including the Maya, are asked about the source of their advanced knowledge in math and science, they consistently answer that it came from the gods. If proof of extraterrestrial visitation and cross-Pacific migration existed, ancient astronaut theorists argue it would have posed a fundamental threat to the Catholic hierarchy, which was then consumed by the intolerance of the Inquisition. If this incredible theory holds true, why did the extraterrestrial visitors eventually leave or go into hiding? David Childress. Over time, with increasing warfare and cataclysms, these advanced civilizations naturally began to collapse. The celestial airships eventually stopped arriving, and the extraterrestrial demigods seemingly retracted their technology. We simply don't know where they went. It's possible they decided, okay, humans on planet Earth have been given the seeds of civilization, let's stand back and observe what they do next. Narrator. For ancient astronaut theorists, the evidence of extraterrestrial visitation remains hidden, buried under centuries of dirt and rock. But every day, the truth is slowly being revealed. Between February 2018 and March 2019 alone, archaeologists made incredible new discoveries in Mexico. Mayan artifacts were found in Teotihuacan, a site previously attributed only to the Aztecs. 200 new artifacts were recovered from a hidden cave beneath Chichen Itza, and using LiDAR scanning beneath dense jungles near Lake Pátzcuaro, an entire ancient city the size of Manhattan was uncovered. Giorgio A. Tsoukalos. Back in the early 1990s, the idea of looking beneath the overgrown jungle using advanced technology was science fiction. But true enough, 20 or 25 years later, that technology now exists. Satellites are capable of looking through the soil to detect buried structures. And the result? They are there. We have just entered a new era of discovery. I predict thousands of yet undiscovered sites will finally see the light of day. When working with a puzzle, you don't need to lay down every single piece to see the final picture. laying down 980 pieces out of 1,000 is enough to guarantee you'll understand the big picture. Narrator: is mankind truly on the brink of an incredible threshold of discovery? One that will confirm extraterrestrial visitation has occurred across the world for centuries? Perhaps underneath the ruins of a newly unearthed site in Mexico, archaeologists will finally uncover the ultimate evidence of alien contact and proof of humanity's true cosmic origins.
The Descending Serpent and the Dragon Houses. Teotihuacan, Mexico. The Temple of the Feathered Serpent, dedicated to Quetzalcoatl, is one of the most sacred step pyramids at the site. Edwin: Quetzalcoatl, the Feathered Serpent, can be traced back to the Olmec period, but Teotihuacan, around 250 AD, was where the god's identity was solidified. He was a creator divinity associated with the planet Venus. He brought civilization, rain, and the arts. He was a flying serpent, a dragon. Hugh: Quetzalcoatl brought high wisdom, peace, and harmony to the land. Often depicted as a human, he famously arrived on a raft of serpents. Edwin: Quetzalcoatl also appeared later in the Maya city of Chichen Itza, where he was renamed Kukulkan, the holy feathered serpent in the Mayan language. The pyramid at Chichen Itza is dedicated to the flying serpent Kukulkan. Eric von Daniken: at Chichen Itza, the Kukulkan pyramid shows a clear message. On the 23rd of March, as the sun rises, the light and shadow form triangles that climb down the stairway to the serpent's head. On September 21st, the opposite occurs. Kukulkan disappears. This effect is purely natural, made by the sun, but the message is preserved. God Kukulkan descended to teach the humans and then departed. Giorgio A. Tusculos: we have living mythology literally built into a structure, showing the deity descending from the sky and preserved in stone. William: it makes you wonder if a craft truly landed here, and the light-shadow effect of the serpent descending the staircase is a preserved recollection of that original event. Narrator: ancient astronaut theorists conclude that the Kukulkan pyramid was built not for a mythical dragon, but to commemorate the arrival of an extraterrestrial spacecraft. They point out this isn't the only dragon-themed site marking alien contact. The Greek island of Euboea is dotted with 25 mysterious megalithic structures called dragon houses. Giorgio A. Tusculos: the main dragon house is on top of Mount Ochi, a name derived from a word meaning to descend and to drive. Legend holds that the structure exists there because Zeus allegedly descended from the heavens right onto that mountain. Narrator: local legend says a giant dragon built the structures to honor Zeus. In ancient Greece, the word dragon was applied not only to monsters, but also to gods or figures with superhuman powers. Thus, the dragon house becomes a meeting place of heaven and earth, or in UFO terms, a landing spot. Giorgio A. Tusculos: in my view, the dragon was the craft from which the creator people, or teachers, emerged. Our ancestors were simply witnessing a crew exiting an airplane. Narrator: the structures themselves suggest extraterrestrial contact. The dragon house on Mount Ochi is built with megalithic blocks weighing up to 10 tons, situated at nearly 5,000 feet. Giorgio A. Tusculos: archaeologists cannot easily explain its construction at that height. We're talking about a massive structure with 10-foot-long, 2-foot-thick ceiling blocks at 5,000-foot altitude. How was this done? I believe it was an extraterrestrial visitation where Zeus landed his craft and established a temporary base camp. Narrator: could the stone structures across Greece and Mesoamerica mark the precise locations where otherworldly beings landed on Earth and eventually returned to the stars?